Welcome, I'm Jane from the Stitchin' Post, and on behalf of the entire Stitchin' Post staff, I'd like to thank you for tuning in for our February 2021 edition of Viking Club. We're very excited because we have a special guest today. We have Stacie Bloomfield, who is an artist, a fabric designer for Moda Fabrics, and founder of Gingiber. And she can't be with us in person given the current circumstances, but we have a video presentation by Stacie. Stacie was in Little Rock a couple of years ago to do a presentation for the Quest Quilt Guild, and she remembers you guys. She had a good time, and she will make reference to Guild in the video, but we want you to know that we will have her new fabric line that she's going to be discussing. It's called Dwell in Possibility. It is shipping pretty much as we speak from Moda, so we look forward to having it next week. It is available for pre-order on our website. So we are going to let Stacie tell you a little bit about herself and about the inspiration behind her new fabric line. Without further delay, I would like you to meet Stacie.
Hi, I'm Stacy Bloomfield, and thank you so much for having me speak at your Quilt Guild. I am here today to talk to you about my new line that is supposed to be hitting stores anytime now called Dwell in Possibility. So I want to walk you through my new line, show you all the fabrics, the quilt patterns that we've designed for it, and then tell you a little bit about the story for how this fabric came to be. So I guess first I'll give you a little bit about me. Like I said, I'm Stacie Bloomfield. I live in Northwest Arkansas. I'm married to my husband Nathan. I've known him since I was 11 years old. We got married when I was 20, and we have 3 kids. We also have 2 dogs, and we just love being here in Northwest Arkansas, and that's where I started my creative career. So I started out as a nursery decor artist. I accidentally fell into a career as an illustrator. My first daughter was born, and I couldn't find any artwork that I wanted to put in her nursery, so I drew my own. One thing led to another, and I opened an Etsy shop selling art prints that I printed on an archival printer that I invested in. Within a few years, I discovered that people who didn't have kids liked my art, so I realized I could design for so many more people. And that led me into starting to license my artwork. So I started not only selling my own products in my store on Etsy, but I started licensing, which is where people, other companies rent your artwork from you and put it on their products. So I designed for Crate & Barrel, West Elm, Moda Fabrics, which is why you know me and why I'm here talking. I've done children's coloring books. I've done a variety of different projects, and I love being able to encourage people and uplift people with my artwork. So a few years ago, I guess it was, nearly 5 years ago now, I approached Moda Fabrics with some designs, and I asked them if they would let me be a fabric designer for them. One thing led to another, and pretty quickly after that, I had a contract with Moda and released my first line, which was a black and white line called Thicket. For a long time, people really only knew me for my animal illustrations, but after a while, I started to develop kind of an idea of incorporating messages within my artwork. Like I said, encouraging and uplifting messages. So Dwell in Possibility, the line that I'm going to show you today, and this is kind of the main print from that line. It features moths with some gold screen printing, which is really fun. It really is kind of the antithesis, not the antithesis, it's really like the culmination of all these ideas about wanting to create beautiful work that uplifts and inspires. So I'm going to walk you through the line, if that's okay. The basis of this whole line came from an Emily Dickinson quote, a poem of hers, and it said, "Dwell in Possibility." And I love the idea of that poem. So here is the illustration that I made for that quote. So you can see here I have this moth where I have put a lot of hand illustrated details into it, and at the bottom I have the quote, "Dwell in Possibility." So for me, the idea of dwelling in possibility is this idea that we have hope that kind of keeps us moving forward even whenever things are kind of dark. And I actually created this line and turned in the artwork in January of 2020, right before everything happened with the pandemic. And sometimes I feel like there's a timeliness to the art that we make and the messages that we create. And I feel like I was in some kind of really good zone when I was making that work, and I had no idea that that was the message that we would be needing right now, a year or so later, feeling, you know, like pretty depleted and sad, right? I know I struggle right now with all the things that have happened with COVID-19 and the changes in my life. And so I have to dwell in the possibility that there's something coming up for us to look forward to. So that was the basis of the whole line, was this illustration. So from there, I thought, why don't I take some other quotes that I love from female authors and I'll illustrate them as well. So if you're not familiar with my fabric lines, I almost always have a panel within my fabric lines for sewing, and usually the panels just feature a single animal illustration and nothing more. But this time I did full illustrations. So here is a quote that I illustrated by Laura Ingalls Wilder, and it has these beautiful deer on it, and it says, "It is the sweet, simple things in life which are the real ones after all." And then I did a quote by Ellen Montgomery, which if you don't know, she wrote Anne of Green Gables. And it's a quote that says, "She seemed to walk in an atmosphere of things about to happen." Here you can see that panel. I'm trying to show you the full thing. And then we have this Louisa May Alcott quote from Little Women that says, "The humblest tasks get beautified if loving hands do them." So the basis, obviously, of this line was female authors who really inspire me with their words, timeless classic quotes of encouragement. And I was really fortunate to be able to do a lot of different illustration styles within my panels. So this panel, as you can see, is pretty large. It's I think a 17 by 22 each rectangle. So it comes, let me show you how it comes. It comes like this on the fabric bolt. So, of course, when you have quotes like this, you have to design some really pretty quilts to go with it. But before I move on to the quilts, let me show you something. When I turned in the artwork for this line, and Moda was excited about it, and that made me super excited. I thought we could really elevate it by, like I said earlier, having gold screen printed accents on it. So I wish I could show you. It's so hard in video, but look at this beautiful, that's gold screen print, friends. Like, that's gold accents. And then every single panel has a little bit of gold on it, which I think just really classes it up, elevates it a little bit. So I can show you more of the line here in a second. But that's the basis of the line, and honestly, it's my favorite line I've ever designed for Moda, because it feels very much like a deeply personal connection between like my heart and what motivates me, and being able to translate that into art and then into fabric that you all can use in your home. I can only hope that when you're cutting it, whenever you're making projects with it, that it just makes you feel like you're getting a big hug, that you feel a little bit of encouragement. So I'll show you the quilts, and I don't have all the quilts sewn up, but I have a lot of them. So we have, I think I already showed you this one. This is a panel quilt that you can hang on the wall like a wall hanging. So it's Dwell on Possibility. And I don't know if your local stores have this available, but you can get the quilt pattern on my website, gingiber.com. We also sell them as PDF digital download patterns. So all of our quilt patterns this year were written by Natalie Crabtree. We collaborated on the designing of them, and then she actually wrote the technical instructions. So they're impeccable, guys. They're really well done. So Dwell on Possibility. This specific panel quilt, this mini wall hanging, you can use any of the panels in, and I'm going to get a little close up here so you can see it. It's really simple. It's just simple squares that you've put together, and I just love it. So on the back, we added just a little hanging area so that you can hang up the quilt. So you can put any of your favorite panels inside this quilt. The next one I'm going to show you, and I just love this. It's called Fly Higher, and it is like a pieced moth pattern. It's the coolest block. Like, I am in love with this. In fact, I want to bring it home. So, all right, look at this quilt. So this is hard to do on video, so I'm going to try to move around so you can see it. Can you guys see this? Let me just, okay, that's a little better. So, as you can see, this quilt has several beautiful pieced moths in it. And it's so hard to do this on video to give it full justice, but here we go. Let me try moving my camera so I can back up a little bit. My studio is a bit messy, guys, so please forgive me. All right. There she goes. That's a little better view of it. So it's this beautiful quilt. I love how I've never really seen a moth block like this, so I feel like it's really innovative and it shows off the line really well. And I have this one pattern within the line, or one fabric I guess within the line, that has all these beautiful gold speckles on it. Can you see that? It has all these little dots and speckles, and it is the most beautiful background fabric. I'm so stoked about it. So we use that a lot within the line. So and on the back we have this beautiful floral printed in gold. It's my full bloom floral design. The next quilt I'm going to show you, I guess I can just keep it tilted this way, ignore the mess, is this one right here. Again, Natalie Crabtree designed this, and it is just a beautiful simple floral. It kind of looks like a tulip. So the entire quilt is made up of these flower blocks. Let me think if I have another quilt to show you. I don't think I have the other quilts here, so I'm gonna go get the pattern books. I'll be right back. I'm coming in, look out. I'm back. All right, so now that I'm back, I just went and got the booklets to show you. So Bright as a Flower is the one that I just showed you, and it's just so fun. Then we have the wall hanging quilt that I showed you at the very beginning. It's called Trinkets, which is 32 by 36 finished. Can you see that, guys? And then Fly Higher is 71 by 72 inches. That's the Moth pattern that I showed you. Darling Doe, which is so darling. Of course, it's called Darling Doe. And I don't have a sample of it to show you right now, but look at this. So it is a really beautiful quilt with applique deer that are based off of the deer in the panel illustration that I showed you. So it is super fun. And then we have one final quilt that uses all of the panels. So it's called Dwell in Possibility, and it's just a simple panel quilt. So those are the patterns that we created for Dwell in Possibility. But what I really want to show you next, let's see, are the fabrics, because like that's what we're all here for, right friends? We're here for the fabrics. So let me start out. Just gonna walk you through all of them. Hope you don't mind, friends. The camera working. So this first one is the Moth, which I love this beautiful, elegant repeat. It's so pretty, and like I said, almost every single pattern we printed this year has gold embellishment on it. I want to show you something. Someone sent me this beautiful doll that they made from the line using that Moth pattern as the dress, and then this is all made from Dwell in Possibility, including these beautiful wings. So isn't that the most cute thing you've ever seen? And like, seriously, the gold just elevates the entire thing. That Moth pattern comes in several different colors. So let me show you this. Here it is with this beautiful gold background, and then the Moth is blue instead of kind of the mauve color. And then we also have it, let me get all the colors out. I really love, I don't know if you've been following my work for a while, and it's okay if you haven't, but I used to be a little bit more gun shy about doing florals, and doing a lot of color in my lines. I used to kind of like to keep it very simple and focusing on a lot of blender and background patterns. But lately, I've been having a lot more fun playing around with color, playing around with texture and details within my fabric lines. So it's been pretty fun. All right, let me get to more moth colors for you to see. There's so many cute things I'll show you in just a second. All right. So what's really hard about doing video things like this instead of being able to be live with you is there's no opportunity to like stop and answer your questions. And that's something that I miss a ton, not being able to be with people, because you know I like to answer all your questions. Let's see here. Where is my other moth friend? Here we go. Here's another moth. Look at this beautiful moth. This is like my favorite of all of them. My mother's favorite too. She wants to cover her chairs in this, she said. So I love that. So here it is. It's like a blue moth with the black wings and the gold details. And let me see if I can get it to focus a little better. I don't know if you can tell, but there are so many little details within that moth. And what I did is I pulled out all the little details within the moth, and then I created a different fabric design out of it, and I'll show you that in a second. So let's see. So when I said there are all these little details inside the moth, I pulled them out. So there are all these little wing details, and I pulled them out and created a really great little blender pattern for you, and it's called Flutters. And it comes in black and white. It comes, of course, with that really fun gold screen print on it. We have it on a black background, which just look how fun that is. I'm kind of gaga for it, frankly. We did it in all the colorways we could. This colorway is very sophisticated for me. I tend to do things either only in black and white or in a very limited color palette. But this was the first line that I did where I really thought about the colors that I would like to use in my own home. And this was a very selfish line, frankly. I designed it for me. I designed this line for me and the things that I wanted for myself. So maybe that's why so many people resonate with it, because I think people can tell I had a lot of fun with it. Here's another look at the moth in a different colorway. So last year, when I was designing this line, I was really inspired by Art Nouveau. Like for my birthday, which was in January, before I designed this line, my husband for my birthday got me a bunch of Art Nouveau books, like museum books, and I spent days and days just scouring through them, being inspired by like the serpentine lines and the gold embellishment and all things that had to do with kind of that era. And I feel like it really came to life in my fabric. And it's funny, on my birthday last year, I was watching the original, I guess not original, but I was watching the 1980s version of Anne of Green Gables, like on my birthday, literally watching it, going through all those books. And then like a week later, I designed this line. So as you can see, a lot of what I was into last January made itself into this line, the Anne of Green Gables quote, and then all of the gold and embellishment. So when I say I was really into like the Art Nouveau kind of look, there's this line work that's very, I don't know, it's really fun and feels really Art Deco, I guess you could say. So I created this really fun pattern, and I put this inside of Dwell in Possibility. So here it is on a white background with gold, which I'm crazy about. Of course, we have it just in black and white. And I just think this is the most fun pattern ever. It's super interesting. You could just keep looking at it and see different things. And I haven't seen a lot of things like it out there, which is one of the reasons I enjoy it. So I was super influenced by Art Deco whenever I made this line. Oh, and look at how fun this is. We did the gold right on top of the yellow fabric, kind of the gold fabric. So it's very like visually interesting. Wouldn't this look great in like a dress or something? It looks really high end, and that's why I like it. And it's quilting fabric, y'all. So something else that I said that when I showed you like the Fly Higher quilt, I mentioned this really great like background fabric that I designed that has all these dots in it. So take a look at this, friends. Look at all the dots in this. So what I did is all these tonal dots on top of each other. So this is literally just like a white fabric, and I have tonal dots in 4 different really muted colors, and they're layered on top of each other, and on the very top is gold. And it is the most visually interesting thing. It's so simple and so interesting, and it is the perfect background fabric, and I love it so much. So I'm actually going to be incorporating this in another line coming up. It was so fun and popular. So here it is on blue, and you can see the tonal difference is a little better on the blue background. But look at it. I love it. In my dreams, it would become like a basics line for Moda. You know how Moda does basics, but we'll just have to see how that goes. And then what else do I have for you here? Oh yeah, this is fun. You know, I was so inspired by the quotes of these famous artists that we actually took all the quotes and did them in a script and did a really fun, just scripted fabric. So these are literally all of those fun quotes from the panels, and we just have them written in cursive, and they're in a simple fabric design. Of course, it's directional, which I know not everybody loves directional, but it gets the job done. Here it is in this color here with the white, and here it is with the gold. I love it. The next thing I want to show you, now this is interesting. As an illustrator, so I'm an illustrator first and fabric designer second. And I know sometimes whenever you're working with like fabric, or like illustrators who don't do fabric primarily, you're going to get a lot of patterns that are like, you know, directional, like I just mentioned, and that doesn't work for all quilting fabric, right? But sometimes it can be really fun to include those directional prints within your artwork. So here's an example of a simple directional that I made, but it's just so fun because of the sweet little deers in this. So this is a single color deer illustration that we have going in a fun little repeat. And it kind of mimics the deer that you see in the panel that I showed you earlier that says it's the sweet, simple things in life, which are the real ones after all. This little deer right here kind of mimics that. So I love the deer, and it makes me really happy. I can see children's clothes being made with it. It's oodles and oodles of fun. I also want to do a simple floral bouquet. So this is just called tiny flowers or tiny bouquets. And look, it's just a simple rows of floral bouquets. And it's hard to see because it's a smaller print. The scale is kind of small, but we have it in all these delicious colors. So it's just so much fun. The next thing I want to show you is, I think it might be the last pattern from this line to show you, and it's kind of the star of the show, and it is this full bloom floral, which I am crazy about. It does feel very elegant. It's elevated for me in terms of florals. It's has a lot of symmetry in it, but it's still super interesting. And of course we have the use of the gold. Every place that you see yellow, that's actually gold screen print. And I think it's incredibly fun. And the way I developed that fabric pattern was actually from the motif work on this illustration. So first I drew this illustration for the humblest tasks get beautified if loving hands do them. And you see it has that symmetry floral work. Well, I actually took that floral work and I decided to turn it into this beautiful, colorful repeat. So I just think this is the bee's knees. I love it. And of course we have several different colors for it. We have this beautiful, just solid gold with black, which is incredibly fun to look at. We have it in black and white, if that's your thing. And I think that's really fresh too. And then I have it in gold on blue. I don't even remember how many SKUs were in this line. I think it was close to 40, which is a larger number of SKUs that I do in my collections. Usually I tend to keep them tighter, 20 to 30. So this is maybe one of the larger collections I've done. But I'm incredibly excited about it, and I'm excited for it to hit your stores where you're at. I think it was supposed to hit in early January, and then with all the delays because of COVID, I think it's just now hitting stores in February, end of February. Something else that we have in store for you for this line is we have some stickers. Stickers are kind of in right now, guys. I'm going to show you some of the stickers that we designed. So we took the panels and we turned them into cute little stickers. So we have die cut stickers, and we are selling these through United Notions as well, and you can also get them on our website. There we go. And there we go. So we just have these fun little stickers to help support the line. let me think what else I wanted to share with you. Like I said, not being able to talk to you face to face is a little bit harder than whenever I get to come visit you, but I'm really excited to come visit you guys again whenever we are done with the pandemic someday maybe. So let me think. Do you guys want to see a sneak peek of my next line? I think that's always fun. I think I did that for you guys last time too. So I have 3 lines. Sorry, my phone is moving. I have 3 lines actually coming out this year, and I just got the strike offs for my next line, and I'm going to give you a preview. It's called Nocturnal. So let me go get the strike offs. So before I show you Nocturnal, I just want to remind you that this line that I just previewed for you, Dwell on Possibility, is hitting stores like any second now. Like maybe like right this second, I don't even realize it. And it is just the most lovely mix of colors. It's elegant but muted. I feel like it is, I don't know. I feel like it is really colorful, and I'm excited. I feel like we've been in a really design-wise experiencing a lot of like minimalism and design, but I'm ready for color again, guys. I'm ready for a lot of color. But the challenge with that is like for someone who's making things for their home, for instance, if everything's been kind of farmhouse and white and minimal, you want to introduce color in a way that doesn't like compete, you know, with all the design elements someone's already created in their kind of minimalist farm home house. And farmhouse homes have been really popular for a while, and I feel like this line is like a natural, easy progression into introducing like a lot of color into your projects. And like, for instance, the wall hangings that we have, wouldn't they look so nice? I'm like, let me just show you. Like, wouldn't this look so cute on a white shiplap wall hanging there with this inspirational message? That's right, I said shiplap. I'm laughing at myself. All right. My assistant just left. Oops, assistant. I called you my assistant. My Holly just left, and she's laughing at me. And it's okay. Anyway, whenever it comes to making quilts and wall decor, I always like to think about like the end use and how it can be enjoyed by the customer. So like I said, when I was thinking about the colors for this, I wanted it to feel really mature and easy to put on your walls, like for the wall hangings, and that the quilts would feel timeless. I wanted these quilts to feel really timeless and really high end. So I feel like this fabric is the type of fabric, obviously we're gonna use on quilts, but you could use it on clothing projects. You could use it to make dolls. I just think it's super elevated, and I'm excited to see it in your homes and on your quilts. And be sure to tag us on Instagram with any projects that you make. Tag us Gingiber Makes, that's our quilting Instagram account. Hashtag us like Dwell on Possibility Quilt, and then we can see everything that you make. All right, finally, I'm gonna show you a sneak preview of my next line, which is called Nocturnal. So it is very colorful, but the colors are deeper, maybe a little bit more playful than Dwell on Possibility. And these might not end up being the final colors because they're strike offs. So, okay. Again, I am playing with symmetry and florals. So look at this really pretty floral, guys. Ah, isn't that so fun? I'm like crazy about it. Let me find a different colorway of that. So much fabric. All right, here's another colorway in this beautiful gray background. And then, ooh, yeah, here's the belle of the ball. Here she is on black background. Look at those beautiful colors. Don't those blues just like jump off the fabric? Doesn't this feel so elegant? Like a fancy Art Deco wallpaper. Ah, I love it so much. So Nocturnal is inspired by like being outside at night, nighttime flowers, nocturnal creatures. We went for like deeper blue colors. There's a lot of owls and forest creatures. Here's an example of another pattern. This is a beautiful, this forest inspired fabric design, and I love the blue on the blue, the tonal. So we have bunnies and foxes and owls and deer. And so we have that in several colors. And again, I don't know if these will end up being the final colors, but I'm very excited about it. And there's a look at that one. We also have some sleepy owls for everyone who loves owls like me. We have a nice little sleepy owl. And then, what else do I have for you? Ooh, I love this one. This one might be hard to see on screen because it's really subtle. So again, inspired by like Art Nouveau. I did this Art Nouveau line work on this design, like very symmetry but serpentine lines. And then that's a little pair of foxes there in the middle of this. So it's kind of really visually interesting, which I'm really excited about. It's one of my favorite designs from the whole line because it's a little bit of trickery with when you look at it. It's like, what am I looking at? And then you look a little bit closer and you're like, oh my gosh, there are foxes there. And I love it. The next thing I will show you, oh, we have so many colors for that one. But again, not everything's gonna make it to the final round. Let's see, those are probably the most exciting ones. Then we have two like supporting patterns, which are really fun. This is, let me find which one I'm gonna show you. This is just simple, like on the diagonal crisscrosses. And we actually did this pattern in a previous line called Farm Charm, and it did so good because people really liked being able to cut right on the diagonal by following the diagonal lines here. So we are re-releasing that. We have a really lovely constellation print that is a part of this line. And then we have these little sunsets that you can see. So it's kind of looks like a blinking eye, but it's really to evoke like the sun setting. So those are the basic patterns for Nocturnal, and I bet you want to see the panels, huh? Well, let me find them for you. And again, colors will probably change, and this is a sneak peek just for you guys. So excited. Now, what I love about this line is it feels really grown up, but it also feels like it could work for a nursery. So I think in and of itself, the fabrics are really well suited for any home decor. They're really elevated, the florals, but you add in our sweet little animal panels. And again, these are not the final colors. And you instantly have the perfect things for making nursery quilts and nursery projects. So we have those foxes, the owl, we have a sweet little dancing bear, and then we have little funny bunnies, little pair of bunnies. So when I think about what's going to happen with Nocturnal, so clearly Dwell in Possibility, the first line, and the line that we're all here for is the kind of line that will work in an adult house. It's like elevated. You could use it in a really sweet kids room too. Like I could put these quilts in my daughter's rooms and they'd be really at home. And then I think about Nocturnal and I think about how fun these panels are, and you can use them in a teenager's room, you can use them in a nursery, you can use them in so many different ways. You can make them cushions. I'm super excited about it. And then when I think about the use of these gorgeous, gorgeous florals, I'm just like, hello, let's make everything out of this. Let's make bags. Let's make a dress. I want to wear this in a dress. And who doesn't love owls? So that's a look at what's coming up for me, Nocturnal. And I think that'll be hitting stores, golly, sometime this year. And Dwell in Possibility is out right now. If you have any other questions, please let me know. I think this is going to be up on your YouTube channel, so you can email me at stacie@gingiber.com, and I can answer any questions that you might have about my lines. If you are looking for our fabric, check your local fabric stores. We actually don't sell the fabric ourselves because we don't compete with our local fabric stores, but we do sell our patterns online. So if you're looking for a pattern, like one of the ones I showed you, you can get those at gingiber.com. You can find us online. My main illustration account is called Gingiber, and then the quilting Instagram account for us is Gingiber Makes, and that's where we focus on like hand embroidery and quilting and fabric, and we really try to be connected with that community there. I'm Stacie Bloomfield. I'm so thankful that you had me here, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you guys. Bye.
So I hope everyone enjoyed seeing Stacie Bloomfield. I think that she is very inspiring and enjoyable, and she's just as sweet as she can be, and we all need a little bit of that at this point in time. So I hope you've been inspired by the Dwell in Possibility fabric line presentation. Those fabrics were delayed in production, and they are, as best as we understand, arriving at Moda right now at the end of February, and so we hope to have those next week. Some of you may know that the Moda warehouse is in Dallas and was affected by the winter weather and the frozen pipes, and they had some flooding, so they may be delayed a little more than that, but we hope to have these fabrics by the end of next week, and they are available for you to pre-order on our website. I wanted to just talk a little bit about what is probably my favorite of the projects for this fabric line, and that is the Trinkets wall hanging. I think that you could do these and hang them in a grouping in your home or give them separately as gifts. I think they're just really they're very doable projects that make a really nice statement, and they don't take much fabric. You need the panel, you need a charm pack or several mini charms, and a little border and binding fabric plus your backing, and that's it. So constructing it is very easy. You do use 2.5-inch squares for the pieced borders. So if you are using a charm pack, those are 5-inch squares, and you will trim those. Each one of those will be cut into 4 2.5-inch squares. And to do that, you can use either the Creative Grid's 2.5 by 12.5-inch ruler, which makes that process very easy, or you could use a small square ruler. You want it to be a little bit bigger than 5 inches, which is what your charm squares are, because it's easier to use a slightly larger ruler. So 5.5, 6.5, whatever you might have available in your library of rulers would work for that. Also remember, when you are using pre-cuts such as charm packs or layer cakes, the edges of those are pinked, so they have the little pinked points, and the dimensions, the 5 inches or 10 inches, depending on the pre-cut you're using, is measuring from point to point. So as you lay your ruler on there, just remember that the edge of your ruler really needs to line up with the points of those little pinked edges. So those would be the rulers that we would suggest for that project. If you use the 2.5-inch squares in the little mini charm packs, then you wouldn't need to cut those down. One of the other reasons I really like this little project is because a small quilt like this provides an excellent canvas for you to try some quilting techniques to build your quilting skills and to maybe introduce yourself to some new types of quilting that you haven't tried before. So because it is a small project, it will help you to learn to manage the weight of a quilt as you are quilting. That's one of the things that really affects your ability to quilt on your sewing machine. I have a quilt here that I want to just show you as an example. If I were working on this quilt and I let it hang like this, with the weight of that quilt hanging down in front, I'm going to be fighting, and the machine is going to be fighting the extra weight of that fabric. So it's important to bunch it up, gather it up, put it in your lap, get it up here so that as you're working on it, you don't have that excess drag of that fabric weight while you're sewing. If you are quilting with a walking foot, there are actually a lot of interesting things that you can do with a walking foot. We've talked about a walking foot before. It has the feed dogs built into the bottom of the foot, so you have feed dogs below your fabric and above your fabric, so it keeps your layers moving together at the same time. Our Viking interchangeable dual feed or walking foot comes with 2 different foot plate options, so that you can use this one for straight stitch and this one if you're doing a decorative stitch for your quilting, which there are really some interesting options. I think we don't always think about things that can be done with a walking foot. This is a new book that we've recently gotten in that talks about machine quilting ideas for both walking foot and free motion quilting. But one of the things that I really found interesting in this book, she has a lot of straight line options, but she also suggests using some decorative stitches with your walking foot. So, for instance, these 2 pages here, she's used a decorative stitch in a grid pattern that adds just, I think, a tremendous amount of interest to your quilting. Here's a couple more examples of decorative stitches used in quilt block sized squares. Karen Davis stitched out a few of the sample designs from this book, and I think you can see them here. She's done them on the solid fabrics. So a spiral design, sort of a pieced crazy quilt design. This one is a kind of wonky spiral design done with straight stitching. So there are a lot of cool things that you can do with walking foot quilting, decorative stitches being one. Also, you might want to consider using decorative threads that perhaps you don't use every day. And one of those that I think is an interesting option, particularly given that there is a little bit of metallic in the Dwell and Possibility fabrics, is using metallic thread. And this is a metallic green, which is not a good color for these fabrics, but metallic thread certainly lends sparkle and interest and could add a very nice effect to your quilt. If you have tried to use metallic thread, you probably know it can be a little bit tricky to work with. So I'd like to give you a few tips that might help you with that. First of all, metallic thread has memory, which means as it comes off the spool, if it's got a lot of curves and wiggles in it, it's going to hold those. So a little bit bigger spool rather than a small skinny spool is going to be better in general for your metallic threads. If you want to, you can use a thread net over that spool. Our Viking machines come with a little thread net. We also have thread nets available for purchase that you can apply over your spool so that it keeps the thread under control as it's coming off the spool. Generally speaking, you want a horizontal spool pin so that the metallic thread is not having to pull against the weight of the spool as it comes off the spool. You want to simplify the path of the thread if you can, and on our machines that probably might mean you would want to skip the thread guide that's right above the needle, that very last thread guide. That will help to cut down on the wear and tear of the more fragile metallic thread. You want to use a particular needle, not just your typical universal needle. You want to use a 90 needle, either a top stitch needle, or actually Schmetz makes a needle that's called a metallic needle. Those needles have a much larger eye than a universal needle. So that large rectangular eye will cut down on the wear and tear on the thread. It also has a deeper groove in the back of the needle so that as the stitches are being formed, it will again cut down on the amount of friction and decrease your thread breakage. You may need to adjust your tension. You may need to reduce your top tension slightly. That is going to be quite variable from one individual machine to another. So just keep in mind that you may need to reduce your top tension to get the tension disc just a little bit further apart, again, to reduce the stress on the metallic thread. So I would encourage you to try it and play with it, because I think it's worth learning those little tricks. If you use a slightly longer than normal stitch length, that will help. And also, with your bobbin, don't try to use cotton thread in the bobbin. Use a fine polyester bobbin thread. The bottom line bobbin thread that we use for machine embroidery would be an excellent choice and will work well as the stitches are forming with your metallic thread on the top. So those would be some suggestions to try. And again, it does take a little experimentation, but I think potentially you could find that it's worth it. Free motion quilting can also be done with metallic thread, and there are several feet that can be used for free motion quilting. The one that we use most often is the open toe free motion spring foot, and the reason we like this foot is because it does have the open sort of C shape of the foot, which allows really good visibility as your needle is going up and down. You can tell exactly where you are and where you're going. So this is the most common foot that we recommend for free motion quilting, and we do have those in stock. You want to set your machine, if you have the option on your machine to set it for spring action free motion, that's what you want to do. If your machine doesn't have that option, you will simply want to manually drop the feed dogs, and that will get you ready for free motion quilting. You are determining the stitch length by moving the fabric yourself. The feed dogs are no longer engaged. You may have noticed that I have my Machingers gloves on. This is another thing that I find very helpful, whether I'm doing free motion quilting or walking foot quilting. These gloves help you to grip the fabric and reduce hand fatigue, and they come in a variety of sizes, so you can pick what fits your hands the best, and we do keep those in stock as well. The other thing, whether you're walking foot quilting or free motion quilting, you want to have as large of a flat surface to work on as you can. So you might want to consider, if you have a cabinet that you can drop your machine down so that your machine bed is level with the cabinet surface, you'll want to do that. If you don't have that option, you should consider an extension table for your machine. Viking makes one. And there's also a Sew Steady version of an extension table that's a flat acrylic table that slides on to the end of your sewing machine. You take the accessory tray off and slide the extension table on. It gives you a nice flat work surface and makes your quilting process much easier. So that would be what I would say about possibly machine quilting on these little Trinkets wall hangings or any other project you might be working on. Of course, there's also the option of hand quilting, and you can either do traditional hand quilting where you use a waxed hand quilting thread, and we carry Gutermann hand quilting thread for that purpose. With this thread, you would typically use a between needle, which has a small round eye, and you want to probably start with a size 8 or a size 9. Eventually you might get where you're comfortable using a smaller between needle, but a size 8 or a size 9 would be a good place to start. And if you like big stitch hand quilting, which I do, size 8 pearl cotton is a wonderful thread option to use for that. The stitches are larger, and these beautiful threads really make your quilting interesting, add a lot of texture and a lot of interest to your project. When you're using these threads, you can use an embroidery needle, usually a size 8, a size 7, if you have it, would work. Actually, I like to use the Foxglove Cottage size 8 embroidery / redwork needle. I find that the eye on this needle is a little bit fatter, and I think it's a little bit easier to thread with the size 8 pearl cotton. So this is my favorite needle to use with the number 8 pearl cotton for big stitch hand quilting. You can also use a combination of hand quilting and machine quilting. So you know, you don't have to take on an entire project and hand quilt it. You can hand quilt some elements and do some machine quilting to fill in the areas that you don't want to hand quilt. I think that's all of the techniques and products that I wanted to talk to you about today. I hope that you've enjoyed today's Viking Club presentation. I hope you will take a look at the Dwell in Possibility fabrics. I think they are wonderful. We do have a few of Stacy's previous line pieces left, and if you search Gingiber, Gingiber, on our website, you will find those products as well will come up in addition to the Dwell in Possibility. We will also be getting her next line that is scheduled to come out in June that is called Words to Live By. So again, thank you for joining us today, and if you have any questions about this presentation, give us a call or drop us an email and we'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Bye.